Hello, this is Donnie Smith with Collision Blast, and today we're going to talk about rust repair. This is video 2, and today we're going to talk about how to fabricate metal for a rust repair. In the last video, if you remember, we talked about how to properly cut out the piece that is rusted, how to extend out past the rust until you get into good thick metal so that you're not welding into a rusted area. That way it doesn't just re-rust on you. And now, today, we're going to talk about fabricating a new piece to replace the rusted piece with. And what I generally use is cold rolled steel, mild steel, 20 to 22 gauge works well. And I cut out a piece a little larger than I'm going to need, as you see in this picture, and then I start shaping it. You can see here where I've kind of cut it out. I've already put a little bit of the bend in it, and I want to mention that we do have a lot of the tools to make some of these bends and shapes, but I'm going to show you in this video just with a few basic tools of how you can do this. So here I am cutting it out, kind of giving it a rough cut to the size that I'm going to need. And again, you don't have to have a tool like this. You can use 10 snips or a cut-off wheel or whatever you have, to make this happen. So you can see in this picture I do have a roller, but I'm not using it. And you can just use the edge of a table because this metal bends pretty easy. And what you want to do first is to get your body line. If you have any body lines, get that right. And just about every panel is going to have a curve in it, and that's a common mistake I see, even if it's a flatter area. Shaving door handles or something like that. It doesn't look like it has much of a curve, but there is a little bit of a crown in it. So you want to make sure that you, just with even with your hands, before you start cutting it to fit, that you put a little bit of a crown, that it needs to be in the piece of metal. And you can do this by your hand or putting it on a table and pushing it a little bit. And here in this picture, I'm just using the edge of the table to create the body line. And if you do need more of a hard body line and you don't have a brake or anything like that, you can use a table vise, put some 2x4s in it, and put the metal on the 2x4 edges and bend it that way. So there's a lot of things you can do just with a few basic hand tools, but here I'm just putting a little bit of a crown in it to match the contour of the vehicle that we're working on. And then sometimes the crown's not, or the body lines aren't exactly the same at the end of a panel, so probably you're going to have to do a little hammering. And you can see here I'm just using hammer and anvil, but again, if you have a corner edge of a steel table or something, that would work fine if you don't have a setup like this. But what hammering does, that allows you to stretch the metals in areas that it needs to be stretched to make more of a complex curve, or maybe the body line kind of fades out like it does on some panels, and you'll have to use a hammer to make these curves. And here you can see I'm going from one end and the other end, just kind of continue to hammer it where it needs to be hammered at. Again, if you need to really sharpen a line up or to fade one out, this is how you can do that. Also on my edges, I straightened those out a little bit. They had got a little bit crooked, so you want to make sure that your edges are all ready to be welded on straight. And still, this takes some work. I mean, this is making your own patch panels, fabricating your own panels is, it's not a real fast process. It takes some time. You need to do a little bit of hammering or bending. Take it to the vehicle, see how it looks. And then that will kind of tell you what you need to do from there. So it's kind of a back and forth, look at it, check it, put it up to the vehicle. And also during this whole time, I don't think I've shown this in the pictures, but that old piece that you cut out, I'm also using that. I'll set it up there to see if I'm getting the right curves and the body lines. So that's one reason you don't want to damage that while you're cutting out, because you're going to use it not only for the size, but to get the right body lines in the right places. You can see here where I'm kind of test fitting it, putting it up there to see, if I need to do any more hammering or bending, and how it fits. Another thing you want to do is you want to be sure to get any rust or foam or anything that can catch on fire when you weld that on. Be sure and remove all that. The rust, be sure and remove the rust because you don't want to put it on a rusted area. Once you have all that cleaned up, you can put some weld through primer in there. And what weld through primer is it will stick to the metal, and even if it's welded on, heated, it'll recoat itself and prevent it from rusting. So it's very important to put weld through primer on anything that's bare metal, any exposed metal, including the inside of the patch that we're going to be welding on. And this is for corrosion protection. Now, whenever I go to aligning, getting this aligned, it's very important to make sure the body line is right. Because if the body line's not right, it's not going to work. It's not going to look right. You're going to be able to see the body line where it changes at. So you don't want to align it by the edges and then weld down just to find out that your body line's off. So the first thing I start checking is the body line. Once I have that right, I know everything else will go smooth. And then what I'll do is I'll tape it up at the top and tape it at the body line to keep it where it's aligned right. Then I'll put some tape on the top, with having the body line match. And I'll go ahead and put a tack up top, and then I'll go through the welding process. There's a sequence you want to go through, and to make sure that this is welded on proper and to prevent warping. And we'll cover that in another video. But I'd also like to mention, if you'll notice by this wheelhouse area, the metal's coming out and it's sticking over. I didn't cut that to match because we cut that whole piece off because it was rusted too. We had drilled the spot welds out. So what I'm going to do is once this is all welded, I will hammer and dolly that edge in. That way it will look like the original panel did before. Now, one thing you want to do before you get it welded on there is mark with a marker on the back side exactly where that wheel well goes. And then trim it about 3/4 of an inch longer so you'll have that edge to roll around. And then right where the wheel well goes down at, I'll usually get a cutoff wheel and just barely cut a line so that'll fold over easier. And you'll also notice, I don't know if you can see it real good, but there's some slits, a couple of slits in the edge there, and that'll allow it to fold over easy and not get kinked up or anything. So cut a couple slits in it, cut a line exactly where you want it to be folded, and then put it on, weld it on, then you can hammer and dolly that edge over, like a door skin. So anyway, that pretty well wraps up this video. Next video, we'll go through the welding process and how to weld that without having warping problems. Because if you warp something, it's very hard to fix. It's not just like a dent that will pop back out. It actually shrinks the metal, and it just takes a lot of extra effort to fix something that's been warped. But that wraps up this video, this part 2 of rust repair. And if you like this video, I appreciate it if you go down and like it, and share this with your friends. Talk to you next time.